Right on, brother.
Well, if you haven't been back in the youth center, adults, you can go back there after service and take a peek at all the renovation, remodeling that's been going on this week. We've been doing a lot of painting, a lot of remodeling back there, and it looks really great. Getting ready for kind of a revamp of our youth ministries and new curriculum, new formats, and so looking forward to that. Going to be starting here soon. This is the second to last Wednesday night of Camp Discovery, and in 3 weeks from tonight, we'll be back in the book of 2 Kings, and so I've enjoyed this summer series. Tonight's going to be my last message. Next Wednesday night, Brother David, I've asked him to preach a message on relating to your grandparents and your relationship with your grandparents. And so I'm going to get him to preach on that next Wednesday night. But before we get into the message tonight, let's do a little activity. We've done this every night this summer. We've got a little activity. Miss Dawn's got a piece of candy. Did you already put it up? Okay. Got a piece of candy for whoever stands up quickest and gives us a right answer. You don't even know the question. You're standing up and you don't even know the question. All right. Miss Hannah is going to put up a picture on the screen. And that picture on the screen, there's two pictures side by side. There's 5 things different between those two pictures. You stand up and tell me one. Don't tell me all 5. You're not going to get 5 pieces of candy. So you can stand up and tell me the first difference you see. There are 5 differences altogether. So, Miss Hannah, go ahead and put that picture up. Nathan? Too late. Who was next? Okay. What about it? Okay, Adam gets a piece of candy. Adelina. A child missing in the picture. Who was up next? Maddie? The clock is different. Do you know?
Are you pointing? One of the pictures in the bookshelf are different.
There's 6. No, actually it's the same. I think it's just more shadow over here, but it looks the same close up. Okay, we'll give it to her. But that's not one of the ones. The pillows are different. Okay, what you got, Maribel? Just one. Gabe, get your candy. Maribel, get your candy. Okay, what's the last one, Leo? We already said the clock. Damien. We already said the cup. Gama. He already said that. We got them all? 6 then in total? Yes, they said the books. There were only supposed to be 5, but I still think that picture's the same. I think one's just more shaded. But it's okay. All right. 5 to 6 changes. One kid got rid of. Look, little things can make a big difference. And tonight, I want you to turn to probably the least preached from book in the Bible, Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon. I want you to turn there, chapter number 2. We know that big things can destroy a home. Adultery can destroy a home. Addiction can destroy a home. Abuse can destroy a home. Abandonment can destroy a home. Those are big things. They're like wolves. They're like lions. But strangely enough, when Solomon talks about something threatening the vineyard, he doesn't say, watch out for the lions or watch out for the wolves. He says, take us the foxes, the little foxes. Sometimes the greatest threat to your home isn't something big enough to frighten you. Sometimes it's something small enough that you tolerate it. A home can lose its sweetness without anybody walking out, nobody filing divorce, nobody committing some scandalous sin. Everybody still lives at the same address. They still eat at the same table. They may sit on the same church pew, but the laughter's gone. The joy's gone. The conversation isn't as warm. The affection isn't as natural. Prayer isn't as common. Irritation comes more quickly, and trust has been eroded. You say, what happened? A lot of times you can't identify one specific thing. I'm telling you tonight, it was the little foxes. Tonight, as we finish our home series, we want to walk through the vineyard of our own homes and ask, what little fox have I allowed to stay in our life? We're actually going to turn to one, and we have hopefully turned to one of the least preached books of the Bible. Song of Solomon contains a beautiful description of two people in love. And that's usually, by the way, how a home begins, right? A guy and a girl, a man and a woman, they fall in love with each other, and that love leads to marriage, and marriage leads to family, and leads to them building a home. And so here in the Song of Solomon, we have a description of that kind of love and that kind of relationship, a man and a woman falling in love. And yet, look at what the Bible says here in Song of Solomon 2, verse number 15. Take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines. For our vines have tender grapes. And I want to say to every mom and dad in here tonight, those tender grapes are those little ones sitting beside you. They are tender, they are innocent, they are precious, and they need protection. And the Word of God is telling you tonight, watch out. It's not going to be the big things that you often have to worry about. It's going to be the little things that slip past you that can actually do the most damage in your home. And I want to give you 5 little foxes tonight that we need to be aware of and watch out for that can destroy our home and destroy the sweetness from our home. Number 1, little decisions. Little decisions. The choices that we make. Every day, we make dozens of decisions. We make decisions and we don't even think about all the decisions that we make. And yet, how often do we ever consider the impact that even the smallest decision can make on our lives? How careless are we over our decisions? And those decisions can seemingly be meaningless. They can seemingly be just minor decisions, and yet can play a big difference in our life. When I was 21 years of age and my sister was 19, I had just gotten home from college. I had been home maybe a week or two, and my sister was traveling on a divided highway, and she come over the crest of a hill, and a drunk driver was coming the wrong way on that divided highway, and she slammed head on into that drunk driver. She suffered a traumatic brain injury. She suffered shattered bones. She was bleeding profusely. She was in a life-threatening situation instantly. 2 cars behind my sister was a trauma nurse. A trauma nurse who worked at the big hospital, the only one that had a trauma center in our whole area. And she worked there and had worked there for many years. That lady saved my sister's life. If she had not been there behind my sister would have died right there on the side of the road. And we got to meet this lady. We got to talk to this lady. And here's what this lady told us. She says, I was returning a video to Blockbuster Video. Yes, it was that long ago. I was returning a video to Blockbuster Video. And she says, for some reason, I went a different direction than I normally go. She said, I left my house and I just decided to take a different route. She said, I don't ever go that way. But that night, she made just a simple little decision to go just a different way than what she would normally go. And that simple decision was the difference between life and death for my sister. And we make decisions every day. And here's the thing, we don't know what even the smallest decision, what the outcome of that thing will be. We think we only need to pray about the big decisions. And yet we need God to guide us in every step, in every choice, in every situation that we face throughout our day. If a plane takes off from an airport and it's 1 degree off from its destination, from the first mile, it's not a big deal. But over the course of 1,000 miles, you know how far away from the airport he's going to be? About 17 miles away, just because he's 1 degree off. That's not much. And we probably know that we need to pray about big decisions, the career changes, the relocations, the starting of that business. But I want to tell you, it's the little decisions that sometimes end up costing us the most. Little decisions, here's what I want you to get of this. Little decisions become directions, and a direction determines a destination. So that little decision that you make that just seems inconsequential to you at the moment, it determines a direction. And that direction is going to lead to a certain destination. We may not have, most people don't set out to destroy their home, to ruin their children, to damage their faith. We may never decide to destroy our home or damage our children or weaken our faith, but it's little decisions that can move us there 1 degree at a time. Proverbs 4:26, the Bible says this, ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Ponder the path of your feet. Watch where you're going. Be careful about your decisions. You know, we've had people leave this church and think it's just a little decision where you go to church, and I'm telling you, it's not. It's not a little decision. People make little decisions, what they think are little decisions all the time, and those little decisions turn out to be big decisions. And we need God involved in every decision, not just the big one, because we need God's guidance for every single step that we take, because we never know how that little decision may impact our life. And that's the real danger. You can't see from your vantage point where that little decision is going to lead you, but He can. That's why you need Him to direct your steps. Just before Dawn and I were married, we were praying about which church to attend when we got married. I was determined. We were from 2 different independent Baptist churches, and I was determined we're going to go to my church, the church I've grown up in, the church the only church I've ever known my entire life. That's where we're going. I'm the man. You're supposed to follow me. Case closed. We're going to my church. And she was like, I don't want to go to your church. I want to go to my church. And so we discussed it and discussed it. We were getting closer and closer to marriage, and a decision needed to be made. And on the surface, that decision didn't seem that important. Both were good churches. Both had, good doctrine and those kind of things. We agreed to pray about the matter. And as I did, and I was praying, God, I want to know your will. God said, I want you to go to her church. And I said, wait a minute, God, you didn't hear me. I'm the leader. I'm the man. And I prayed, and God said, I want you to go to her church. Outside of salvation, outside of marriage, that was the third biggest decision I've ever made in my entire life. But I had no idea at that moment. At that moment, it just seemed like a choice between good or better or best. But I'm standing here telling you tonight, if I had not followed the Lord, and I had not made the decision to follow where He was leading us, I probably would have never surrendered to the ministry. I probably would have never surrendered to come to California, and I probably would not have come out here and planted Merced Baptist Church, and we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. I would say that's a pretty consequential decision. I had no idea at the time, but God did. God did. And I'm glad that what I thought might be just a little small, minor decision, I'm glad God knew how big it was. And I was willing to let God direct my path. And I'm telling you tonight, the first little fox that you got to watch out for are those little decisions that you just think don't even matter. A lot of times people say, oh, well, I don't want to bother God, like God's bothered by you. He's an infinite God. He can take all the time you need to help you make a decision. He's in no hurry. He's in no rush. He's not overwhelmed like we humans get. He is able to listen to you and give you direction in your life, and He wants to be involved in every single part of your life, no matter how small. I wonder who it is here that is potentially going to miss God's opportunity, God's plan, God's will for their life and their home because they don't stop and consider and pray about those little decisions. What small decision or decisions have you just been making on autopilot? Is it having the phone at the dinner table and being focused on that instead of those sitting there with you? Is it saying yes to one more commitment that steals time away from your family? Is it letting a hard conversation slide because a small decision to avoid it feels so much easier than a small decision to have it? Little decisions. Those are those little foxes that will rob the vineyard, that will steal it of its sweetness. Number 2, little neglects. Little neglects. The things we fail to do. This little fox is not what we do, but what we fail to do. Look there in Song of Solomon. You've got your finger there. Look in chapter 1 and verse number 6. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Now here's somebody given the responsibility of keeping and tending other people's vineyards. And yet, in order to keep other people's vineyards, they've neglected their own. That sounds like a lot of men in the ministry I know. They spend all their ministry ministering to other people's family and neglecting their own. That's a life out of balance. And that can happen not just to pastors, that can happen to anybody. That little neglect. What we fail to tend will eventually deteriorate. It is possible to be busy tending to everybody else's vineyard while your own vineyard goes unattended. Some of you are big-hearted people who can't say no to anybody, and you overextend yourself and are so busy helping other families that you are neglecting your own family. You're busy tending other people's vineyards, and you're neglecting your own vineyard. And when you're doing that, that little fox of neglect is coming in and doing great damage that oftentimes doesn't show up right away. Neglect isn't necessarily doing something wicked. Often neglect comes when we're attempting to do good in one area, but we're neglecting good in a more important area. We stop spending time together as a family. We stop talking. We stop enjoying each other's company. We stop praying together. We stop hugging, and we stop saying, I love you. And we let this go on day after day after day. If it has been more than a day since you told your spouse, I love you, shame on you. You should do it multiple times every day. You say, well, we've been married for 30 years. I don't care. We've been married for almost 30 years. We'll be next year. We say, I love you multiple times every day. I don't want to neglect the opportunity to let my wife know I love her and I appreciate her. We say thank you to each other multiple times a day. Every little thing that we do for each other is always rewarded with a thank you. And it's genuine, it's sincere, it's not habitual, it is truly appreciative. And I'm just saying it's easy to neglect those things and let those things slide and go on day after day. How many of you have ever tried to systematically, and this fits in with our discipleship, you've tried to systematically read the Bible, you've tried to get into a habit, a regular routine of reading a Bible, and maybe you started out at the beginning of the year and you're doing really great, and then you miss one day. And all of a sudden, one day turns into multiple days or weeks. That's how neglect works. It sneaks up on you. And it gets you when you're not thinking about it. On June 3rd, 1976, an engineer at Teton Dam in eastern Idaho noticed two tiny seeps of water coming down the downstream side. Barely more than just a trickle from a garden hose. It looked too small to alert anyone, so he didn't think about it anymore. He just let it go. 2 days later, the trickle had become a little stronger. 2 days after that, by 11:55, the dam had collapsed, sending a wall of water through the valley, killing 11 people, flooding 5 counties, and hundreds of millions of dollars in damage because of something too small to notice. Just simple neglect. And that's the danger of neglect. Neglect is dangerous because its damage is rarely immediate. It rarely takes place immediately. And parents, this is big for you because that little neglect that you're going through right now is not going to show up until they're in their teens. And by then it's too late. And so you got to be diligent now. You got to stay on top of them now. You got to discipline them now. You got to instruct now. You got to correct now. You've got to do all those things. You've got to invest now. You've got to love now. You've got to do all those things now, because that little bit of neglect is not going to show up right away. It's going to show up later on when it's too late. And that's a little fox that will destroy the pleasure in your home. Here's a verse for you, James 4:17. Therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Have you ever noticed you don't ever have to plant weeds? Ralph, all you got to do to grow weeds is what? Neglect them. Just don't do anything. Neglect to weed them. Neglect to get them out of your garden, your vineyard, and they will grow on their own. A healthy home requires constant cultivation, noticing and correcting little neglects. Little fox number 3. Little words. The things we say. Sometimes in a moment of frustration, sometimes in a flash of anger, little words are poison darts that leave lasting damage to the sweetness of the home. In James 3, verse number 5, the Bible says, even so the tongue is a little member and boasteth great things. Behold how great a matter a little fire kindleth. Often those little words are not intentional in their damage. Just a word misspoken, a tone that was harsh, a intention that was misread. I read about a father who had his son take a hammer and a nail and drive that nail into a fence post every time that son lost his temper and said something he shouldn't have said. Then every time the son displayed some self-control, he would give the son the hammer and tell him to go pull out a nail. After years of training, the son had gotten pretty good at self-control. Soon, he had pulled all the nails out of the post, but the holes were still there. So that's the damage of the tongue. You might just blow up and let off steam and use your tongue to do so. And then later on, you may come and say, I'm sorry, and regret it, and try and patch things up and exert some self-control, but you left the hole. The damage was done. A little fire and a little fox teach the same lesson. Something small can produce disproportionate damage. And usually what damages a home atmosphere isn't just one screaming argument. It's a steady drip of wrong words. Sarcasm, criticism, a sharp tone, an eye roll, a sigh, whatever. You always, you never. Jokes made at somebody else's expense, correcting your spouse in front of the children, talking to your family in a way that you would never talk to somebody at church. Proverbs 15:1, the Bible says, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. I wonder what little words are prone to light a great fire in your family. Do your words make the home safer, sweeter, a better place to live, or a worse place? People stop opening their hearts when doing so only opens them up to hurtful words. So we've covered little decisions, little neglects, little words. Number 4, little lies. The things we conceal. Hear me well. A little dishonesty can destroy a large amount of trust. Just a little dishonesty can erode all the trust. Proverbs 12:22, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. What are little lies, Pastor? Half-truths, hidden purchases, deleted conversations, changing details to make yourself look better, concealing something because, oh, they don't need to know that, saying you did something when you didn't. Young people, did you make up your bed? Yeah, you threw the covers back, but you didn't make up your bed the way Mom wanted you to make up the bed. Making promises you have no intention of keeping. There's a principle in criminology called the broken window theory. Anybody ever heard that? You've heard it, Miss Lorna? Researcher James Q. Wilson and George Kelling proposed that if one broken window in a building goes unrepaired, it sends a signal that nobody's watching and nobody cares, and soon there will be more broken windows. Then graffiti, then real crime. That first broken window rarely causes serious harm by itself. What it causes is permission. It teaches everyone watching that disorder here isn't taken seriously. We've had graffiti on our back fence with our tarp before, and I immediately, when I saw it, I'd go to the paint store and I would get some black spray paint or brown spray paint, and I'd be out there spray painting over the graffiti. And just about every time I've done that, I've had people drive by and say, oh, they'll be back. Like, what's the use? What's the use is I'm going to spend as much money as you're going to spend to paint this, to repaint it, because you're not going to keep doing this to my property and me do nothing about it. And it has, I think it cuts down on it. But if you do nothing, it just invites more. And that's what a little lie does in the home. The damage of the first small lie isn't usually the lie itself. It's what it leads to. What it teaches us is negotiable. It teaches us that the truth is negotiable. Ephesians 4:25, wherefore, put away lying. Speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Notice the Bible's reasoning there. Did you catch that at the end of that verse? He says, wherefore put away lying. Why? For we are members one of another. What is the Bible saying? Your lying doesn't just hurt you. Your lying affects the whole family. It affects everyone. Dishonesty doesn't just make you look bad, it damages your relationships. And the size of the lie doesn't determine the damage. What matters is what the lie does to the trust. A family can survive an uncomfortable truth much easier than it can survive a comfortable lie. We're not talking about the big lies. We're talking about the little ones that slowly erode the trust in the home. Young people, you're going to be tempted to take the easy way out sometimes and stretch the truth, conceal the truth, and be a little shady and a little dishonest with your parents. And then you keep doing that, and your parents keep catching you on that. And then when something big comes along and you want to do it, and then you're going to get mad because they're not going to let you do it, and you're going to say, you don't trust me. And I would say to you, no, you've proven you can't be trusted because you can't tell the truth. And that's what little lies do. Here's the remedy. Tell the truth quickly, completely, and voluntarily. Don't make your family drag it out of you, and by all means, do it consistently, even when the truth hurts. That helps build trust in the home, not destroy it. Number 5, little offenses. Little offenses. The things we refuse to release. Small hurts become large walls when we refuse to release them. In any family, either blood family or church family, you're going to get hurt from time to time. People will let you down. They will not behave in a way that you think they should or wish they would. You may think that you would have done it differently than them and that your way may actually be better. But I want you to understand something. Getting hurt is not the little fox, because everybody in here has been hurt and is going to hurt others. Because homes are made of fallible people, of fallen people. We let each other down. We don't always respond and behave in ways that we should. And that's true like I said, in a blood family and in a church family. I, as a pastor, I won't always make the right call. I'm human. Get over it. Guess what? You don't always make the right decision. Sometimes you'll disagree with me and think, should have done it differently. Sometimes a husband will do the same with a wife, and a wife will with a husband. And certainly kids do that all the time with parents, think that they've made the wrong decision. Get over it. You're going to find out you're not perfect either. Maybe they did make a bad decision. Maybe it wasn't justified. Maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. Maybe it did disappoint you. That's not the little fox making a bad decision, disappointing people, hurting people. That's not the little fox. The little fox is holding on to it. That's the little fox that will destroy you. So being offended is not the little fox, but the little fox enters when we refuse to deal with that offense in a biblical way. When we would rather hold on to the offense instead of forgiving and releasing it. We hurt each other as couples. And then it's like we store that hurt as ammunition for the next go-round. That little fox is going to destroy your relationship. We'd rather hold on to that than just get rid of it. You know this verse, Hebrews 12:15. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God. Is there anybody in here who has never failed of the grace of God? But by that I mean not been as gracious to people as you should have been. Is there anybody in here that has that stone in your hand and could throw it up here at me? Because I can tell you I've been guilty of that. Put that verse back up, Hannah. Looking diligently lest any man fail of the grace of God. That's going to happen in a church. It's going to happen in a home. But here's the important part. Lest any root of bitterness take hold in your life. Lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Husbands will offend their wives. Wives will offend their husbands. Dads and moms will hurt and disappoint their children. I have had to apologize to my children. Not once, not twice, multiple times. I have had to apologize for sometimes the decisions I made years ago that I can look back on now and say, I really wish I had made a different decision in their life. And God spoke to me and God convicted me, and I have to go to my children and say, guys, I wish back then I had made a different choice. I'm sorry. Kids will disappoint their parents. It happens. The question is not if it's going to happen, but what are you going to do when it happens? Think about what a root actually does. You've seen a sidewalk cracked and heaved upward, not by a bulldozer, but by the root of a tree that nobody planted on purpose to be a concrete buster. And yet that root growing patiently, persistently, resiliently up underneath that hard concrete for years, pressing, pushing until finally the concrete gave way. That's bitterness. It doesn't announce itself on the day the offense happens. It goes underground and it lives there for a long time and grows in silence until it cracks something you thought was solid. I'm going to shatter right now an old saying that people hold on to as truth. Time does not heal all wounds. I don't know who came up with that saying. It's a lie. Let me say it this way. Time does not heal all wounds if you keep picking at the scab. It won't heal. It'll just sit there and fester. It'll just sit there and get worse. Most little offenses aren't destroyed by time. Instead, the root grows deeper. In the church, and you know this is in the Bible, but nobody ever practices it. And let me say, if you don't practice it, it's a sin. But in Matthew 18, verse number 15, God gives Jesus, while he was here on earth, gave instruction of how to deal with offenses that happen in the church, in God's house. Okay? Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between him, thee, and him alone. Here's the usual way this happens. Somebody makes a decision, somebody does something, somebody says something in the church, somebody gets upset. A lot of times, half the times it's pastor because he's making a lot of decisions. Somebody gets upset, and they go talk about that with everybody else but the person who offended them. And finally, when it hasn't been resolved by talking about it with everybody else, they might eventually get around going to talk to the person who actually offended them. And if that's the way you handle things, you're in the wrong. I don't care what the other person did, you're wrong. Because you're not handling it in a biblical manner. You say, what are you saying? Why are you talking about this as a church? Because here's the thing. I think if this is good for God's house, it's good for your house. If your wife upsets you, don't go to work and be telling everybody else. If you're upset with your wife, go home and talk to her and get it right with her. And likewise the wife. Don't be going to work and running down your husband because he upset you this morning. If it's good for God's house, it's good for your house. God says this is how you handle offense. When somebody offends you, you have a responsibility. You who were offended, not the offender, the offendee. The offendee has the responsibility to go to the person that hurt them and say, you hurt me. I'm disappointed in you. I didn't like the way that went down. Because only when you do that can healing and restoration begin. In a home, you're not going to run out of small offenses to forgive. The question is whether you'll dig them out while they're still small or let them take root. Is there an offended brother or sister at your table tonight that you need to go and apologize? I was thinking about that. I meant to put it in my notes, but I just thought of it now. The Lord brought it to my mind anyway. You know, we live with a glaring example of this kind of thing. 3 brothers, all with the last name Gallo, who grew up and lived in this valley. And they died hating each other, not talking to each other. Because two of the brothers wouldn't let the younger brother use their last name on his dairy business. Took their younger brother to court and sued him to prevent him from using just the Gallo name on his cheeses, making him label them as Joseph Gallo Farms instead of just Gallo cheeses, and they detested each other. And isn't that sad? We're talking about blood brothers who grew up in the same family. I read that the same thing happened. Who was it? I think it's the two guys that started Puma and Adidas were also brothers. And they died hating each other, just didn't talk to each other the rest of their life. That shouldn't be. It shouldn't be in your house or God's house. It shouldn't be in any house. It's those little foxes, those little offenses that we refuse to get right and release. They'll destroy us. So catch those foxes while they're still little. Catch that decision before it leads in a direction and becomes a pattern. Catch that neglect before it becomes irreversible damage. Catch the word before it becomes a wound. Catch the lie before it destroys trust. Catch the offense before it becomes bitterness. Let's go back where we started. Song of Solomon 2:15. Notice what the verse says. Take us. Underline that word. Take us, the foxes that spoil the vines. For there's another word, our vines have tender grapes. The word is not I. The word is not me. The word is us. It's not, let me catch the foxes. Hey, honey. Us. Let us do it. This is something we're going to have to work on together. It's our responsibility to watch out for those little foxes. It's a bride and a groom jointly calling for help in guarding what they have built. Guarding a home from the little foxes was never meant to be a one-person job. It takes both of you awake to the same small dangers, hunting together. You know what you do with foxes? You have to hunt them. They don't hunt you, you have to hunt them. And it's two people hunting out those foxes instead of blaming each other for the damage after the fact. So don't wait until the vineyard is spoiled to start hunting the fox. Don't wait until the sweetness is destroyed before you begin your fox hunt. Do it today. Our heads bowed, our eyes closed. Maybe tonight you'd say, Pastor, boy, I needed that tonight. If I'm honest tonight, Pastor, I've got some little foxes that I need to hunt down. Maybe it's